You're welcome back. Well, some of the realities of today's economy is inflation in Nigeria is at 17.71%. Interest rate is at 13%. And this, of course, affects the cost of fund. Tax for businesses totals about 35%. On the other hand, cost of operating businesses have surged. Employment is threatened. We have diesel prices. We have queues at the filling station. Is it possible to build a business in times like this, with these gloomy factors? Well, we have Abiola Adediran. She's founder and managing consultant of Pan-African Social Impact Organization, Midridge International, and she shares her thoughts and experience with us. Hi, Abiola. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making it here. Good to have you. This inflation, interest rate, these are some of the realities that we see on paper. Tell us firsthand experience. How is the business environment at this time?
Thank you very much for that question. I dare say to you that the business environment has not been any tougher than we have it right now. Right? A lot of business owners are finding it really hard. I mean, the combination of inflation with interest rates, everything off the roof, naira devaluation, and then, of course, the petrol scarcity issues, diesel going to its all-time high. I mean, you can't even imagine what a lot of businesses are going through right now. And the truth is that a lot of businesses are at the point where they're literally just defending their bottom line, so to speak. So a lot of people right now are really not focusing on making a lot of profit, but can we at least stay in business? Can we at least get things going, get things moving? But the truth is that, economic cycles change, right? And so we find situations where we get into all this double whammy kind of situation, right? But it is the businesses that are resilient, and they're able to build that resilience, that agility factor into their business that actually, will ride the tide, and of course, the good times will obviously still come back. Yeah,
well, they say, and I think I do believe it, I've seen it, Nigerians have thick skin. But as you noted, and it's not just a Nigerian thing, unfortunately, at this time, but we just have our own peculiarities. Absolutely. What would you say has made it peculiar when it comes to Nigeria? The UK, they have recession, they have inflation. In the US, the same thing. Europe is dealing with its problems because of the war going on in Ukraine and trying to wean off Russian energy and all that. What are some of the peculiarities when you talk about Nigeria?
So like you said, right, if you go to the UK, for instance, inflation is also very high. Cost of food prices have gone up. So it's really everywhere, right? But the Nigeria situation is a bit different, or there's just, a little angle to it. And I can say that, our political situation, the fact that, we're getting into an election, we're in an election year and a lot is going on, right, is also one of the things that contributes to all the other things that we're dealing with. There's the double taxation issues. Businesses are facing double taxation. Almost as if government is looking for ways to generate revenue from all sources. And so the businesses are now the people that are feeling the brunt. And obviously, there's only so much of this cost that you can pass to the, consumers at the end of the day. And even for the consumers, right, their disposable income has also reduced, right? So in terms of even getting more revenue for the business, in terms of making more sales, that has reduced. And then you now see that some of the costs you have to bear as a business, because you can't literally pass everything on to the customer. If you are the kind of business that also runs, you produce products or services that are considered luxury, at this point, you will definitely see, a dip, because people are now looking at, okay, what are the essentials? Those are the things I need to focus my attention on. So I would say that what has added to the Nigeria situation is the electioneering year, right, and the fact that there's a whole lot going on, right, and with so much money in circulation, you can expect that inflation obviously will peak, right? But also because of a whole lot of other macroeconomic factors that are affecting us, all of this jamming with high rate of inflation, it's a double situation for, the average business owner in Nigeria to deal with. But again, like I said, the way out for a lot of businesses in terms of how they have to manage this is to obviously remain open and agile, just being able to quickly adapt to situations. You have to be innovative in the way, you think about your business. Look at your business model right now, ask yourself what is working and what is not working. you know, and then you have to quickly start tackling the things that are not working. I mean, I do share with business owners that, you know, you have to keep looking at your cost profile, because at the end of the day, the profitability of your business rests solely on, you know, how high your cost is, the cost of operations. So let's even imagine that we keep your revenue constant. Let's imagine that your revenue is not growing. What affects your bottom line at the end of the day is your cost profile. So if your cost is increasing, you know, higher than your revenue, then you know that you're likely going to get into a loss position. And then even the cash flow to even run the business is also another issue, right? So for me, the resilience factor is a thing. Being able to change. This is not the time where you freeze and do nothing, right? Because the situation is that a lot of people can actually freeze at this point with everything that is just happening at the same time. Businesses that depend on Forex, right? And with dollar rates going high every day, you know, there's a tendency as a business owner to just see all of this coming at you and you just freeze. And literally, you're not able to do anything. But this is not the time you freeze, right? This is a time you process the information and look at, you know, what's the impact on the business? Which areas are impacted? What can you do differently? For the things that you source from abroad, for instance, what are the local alternatives that you can explore at this point in time? Perhaps you could start talking to your suppliers to renegotiate your contracts. There's so many things that you can do.
Yeah, I really like for us to get into that, because I wanted to ask you, you talked about cutting costs, you know, at this time, but my fear is it may affect staffing, and that is unemployment looming. We already have that, you know, at over 30-something%. So we already have that. But what are some of the other ways that business owners can cut costs at a time like this?
I think one of the ways, obviously, is embracing digitization. There are lots of things that you probably do manually today that if you leverage technology, you're able to probably cut down some of the cost. And like you said, staff cost is a huge part. If you notice with the mass resignation right now, a lot of our Gen Zs don't want to come to work anymore. They want to work from home, right? So as a business owner, you also have to think about, okay, how can this work in my business? Is this a possibility, right? And if you're able to make people work from home, maybe like maybe 2 days a week out of a 5-day week, that can actually also reduce your diesel cost, obviously, right? So you may have to invest in technology that allows you to still be able to monitor your staff and the work that they're doing and coordinate them offline, right, rather than bring them on site. And then you're burning money, you know, costs on fuel. And then, of course, you can renegotiate your employment contracts as well and say, okay, if we're going to do this and have people work 2 days from home and 3 days at work, perhaps we can also bring some flexibility to the pay as well. So if you earn 200K, but you want to explore these 2 days from home, perhaps we pay you 150K. Does that work for you? So those are other concessions that business owners can definitely explore. I won't say it's a perfect solution, but you definitely have to localize these ideas to your business and see what would really work for you.
And then you talked about looking at local materials, raw materials, for instance.
Absolutely. I think it's a no-brainer for especially businesses in manufacturing and a lot of trading businesses as well, right? We have to look inward right now because we're really being forced to do the things that we obviously needed to have done like 10, 20 years ago, right? And the truth is that if your business is largely import-driven or you have a core part of your raw materials that you source from abroad, the truth is that the higher that is, it increases your cost of production at the end of the day. And if you look at the sales price, the price at which your customers are comfortable to buy your product, and you see that you can't, you know, significantly pass that cost to them, you then have to do something in that equation. You see what I mean? So the composition of your product that is sourced from abroad has to reduce. So you have to find alternatives either way. And then, of course, I feel like business owners at this point should also remain open, right? Look at your business model and see what is working and be really ready to change, really. Because the truth is that you definitely have to do something to stay in business.
You know, I think one of the things you have said so far is don't freeze.
Don't at all.
Well, there's also the option of backward integration. For instance, I do know that some people who deal in foodstuff, for instance, because farmers, apart from the issue of insecurity, which is really, really big for the country. It's a big issue now. I mean, it's obvious everywhere, even the president's convoy was attacked. So farmers, of course, have been affected by insecurity, but they're also affected by the high cost of funding. So we do know that some foodstuff dealers actually do somewhat of a backward integration. So they do work with the farmers, give them the fund to go back to the farm. I guess businesses can also look at that as an option.
Absolutely. I mean, those are other ways to creatively look back into where is my supply coming from and what are the challenges there. Obviously, farmers are not able to access the kind of funds that they want because the funds come very high, very expensive, right? So as part of backward integration is to see, okay, do we have the funds? Can we invest in the farmers so that they farm for us, so to speak? So you get your input from them and you're able to provide the financing that helps them to be able to do it. So the issue of even transportation, you could even cover that and find a way to see, okay, rather than relying on these farmers to bring these things to the market where we buy it and then, you know, they go through all of these challenges because they also don't have capacity to ensure that they bring their goods to the market before it gets spoiled and all of that. Perhaps we can do, you know, create an infrastructure and maybe create some logistics within our business that takes care of that, so that you take that burden from the farmers who really can't do much about it, and in an attempt for them to do something, the cost at which the products come to you become higher. So if you can actually bridge that gap by giving them some bridge finance, right, and getting into some partnership with these farmers to fund, you know, their production, obviously those are ways by which you can creatively, you know, look at the business and see where you can actually do something. I mean, there are things that are still within our control that I feel like we can do. I mean, not everything will be fixed by the government. So you have to look at your business and say, okay, which things are still within my control and which things are out of my control? And then you can take control on those ones that you know you can do something about.
I guess that's one of the reasons why the B2B model seems to be flourishing now, the business to business. So businesses are looking at what do you have that I can help you with, that the final product will come back to me, thereby reducing my cost, reducing how much you would have sold it to me, and then also reducing my overhead cost at the end of the day.
In fact, the way we think about partnership will change going forward. So you're not going to look at the person that is in the same industry as you as your partner. You want to look at everybody within your value chain, right? People that contribute to the cost of your product and ultimately the price at which you offer it to your consumers, and ask yourself what sort of collaboration can exist here that will be a win-win for both of us. What resources do you have that I can benefit from, and what resources do I have that you can benefit from? And at the end of the day, we're able to do business in a way that we keep our costs, you know, as low as possible, and it's going to be a win-win for both. So I dare say that we have to really think creatively in these times, and we have to look beyond the normal, the things that we're used to.
And you talked about tax the other time. No, I don't think anybody's really happy to pay tax, except you're compelled to do it. But of course, at this time, it should be expected that governments would face the reality, which is that the business environment is harsh at this time, and try to help businesses. But in the UK, for instance, they're talking about windfall tax. Do we have any business that is taking advantage of this time that we could tax, you know, and do our own windfall tax?
Although, interestingly, I feel like, you know, this is the responsibility of government to really be able to, you know, look at our legislation and let it really just follow the trend of things. Like you look at the microeconomic circle and you're really using the fiscal policy to really enable, you know, economic activities. I would imagine that at this time where things are generally very tough, right, is a time where you would introduce something like tax-free days or tax holidays and that sort of thing, right?
But the government also needs money.
They do, right?
You know, how do we balance that out? The government is borrowing. Do you understand? So
That's
they
the
do
issue.
need money to run the country. And Nigerians do not think it's time to let go of subsidy. So that is a huge cost, in addition to Nigeria's debt. So, I mean, the government, I think they're also fixed.
I know, right? And I think that that is the Nigeria effect. You know, when I say there is a peculiarity to the Nigerian situation, right? We are largely a consuming country, right? And that really means that even the government itself, in terms of where it generates its revenue from, it's largely from taxes, apart from, you know, the dependence on oil and all of that. So there's a bulk of the revenue that funds government that comes from tax. And so if they're not even getting that money, there's no other way they're getting the money, because they're already borrowing, right, and all of that. So I do say that, you know, it's just a situation that we're in, and I would imagine that, you know, the government is also looking at this and saying, what can we do? Because we have to keep economic activities obviously ongoing to ensure that, you know, even the GDP is not affected at the end of the day.
Well, you know, you painted, I think, kind of a picture where it seems let's make the most of what we have, and we might actually find out that there are some goods in these hard times. For instance, if Nigerians' taste, which is very foreign, foreign colored, we're more comfortable with imported stuff, things that are not made in Nigeria. If these times could maybe push Nigerians to look inwards, including the government. I know I was listening to a documentary recently, and they were saying, for instance, the NYSC uniforms, the army uniforms, why can't we get, even if it's those in the correctional service, a lot of them, they are schooling. The last time I visited Ikoyi correctional service, they are schooling, they are learning skills. Why can't they be engaged, to handle some of this, and then that will reduce the foreign exchange or the pressure that we put on Naira because of foreign exchange. So actually, there might actually be some goods, coming out of all of this.
I agree with you. I agree with you because I feel like in every tough situation, right, is also opportunities, if only we're able to identify them. Right, in a situation where there is so much dependence on import, and of course you can see the pressure that puts on on forex, and then of course consequently the Naira devaluation. Right, I feel like this can really force us to start to look inward and make our made in Nigeria products now more trendy and things that people would embrace, right? If we embrace more of our made in Nigeria products that are sourced locally and are done by people, made by manufacturers locally, we're able to stimulate the economy. So the issue of unemployment, is taken care of, right? The issue of, so much dependence on import and then the need for forex and all of that, we can, deal with that a little bit. I don't see the entire, it's going to take a while, really. It's going to take a while. But I do believe that, if this situation can force us as individuals, as business owners, as collectives, as even government, to come up with initiatives that really favor made in Nigeria products and promote them. I see a lot of export even going out of Nigeria these days. I see the export agencies also doing a lot of sensitization awareness.
Yeah, NEPC,
yes, NEPC is actually doing, they're doing quite a bit, helping small-scale business owners to make their product exportable, right, and just give them the right education. So there's a whole lot that we all can do. It's not only the business owners, but other agencies that can sort of support these businesses and make them ready to be able to export their products.
Yeah, that word you said, exportable, actually catches my attention, because the other side of this conversation is people will ask about the quality of what, is being produced in Nigeria, for instance.
Absolutely.
You want to wear clothes, you want to wear shoes, the food you eat. I met someone who sells popcorn, and she actually imports her corn. And I felt heartbroken because we have fertile land, we have the weather, why can't we? And she says that it's the little details that's missing. So even though we have the corn, the processing, maybe you finish and then there's sand, and things like that. So if you buy her popcorn and then you taste sand, you won't buy it again. You check out the brand and you don't go back again. And she doesn't want that. So I think it's also for attention to be given to the quality of these products if we really mean business in doing this. We've invited Standards Organization to the show a couple of times, and we've not heard from them because a lot of this actually lies on their shoulder to ensure that the right process, the right quality is followed through for us to have an exportable product, as you said.
I agree with you. I feel like, the quality control process or the systems that we've put in place to ensure that, what is coming out of our production, what is coming out of all of that is of the right standard. It's something that needs to be looked into, right? And I feel like, a lot of encouragement to business owners to also be able to make their products something that can compete on the global scale, right, will force them to maybe make some investment in that. But again, there's only so much that individuals can do. I feel like the government definitely has to do something. The government agencies, the SON and the likes, to put a lot more attention, right, to this quality process, because the truth is that if we're able to produce products that can really stay at par with all the other products that we import, I mean, there's no need. It wouldn't make sense for you to go buy something that is more expensive because it's imported. And you can see, you know, another one, an alternative that's made in Nigeria that can do just about exactly the same thing, if not better, right? So if we see better alternatives, or at a minimum, let's even try and meet the standard that is already out there, we can do a lot and help ourselves in Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Abiola Adedinran, Managing Consultant with Midway International. But I think one major takeaway is, please, business owners, don't freeze. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we'll take a break now. So please, business owners, don't freeze. Just keep on moving and you will meet, you know, an opening somewhere in front. At least that's the message we have from Abiola here. But we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll head to the market. This is Business Morning on Channels Television.